is data. I want to talk about what data is. You heard the term data, you heard the term big data. Before we get into the big data, let's understand what is data. So data is collection of information, right? Precisely, data is our everyday life. We deal with it everyday basis, right? Because I'm talking to you, like for example, I just now called Mr. John. Now can I say Mr. John, which is name of the person, is data for me? The data is a name of the person here called Mr. John. So data is an integral part of our life. We deal with it every day. We deal with it, identify a person also. Now given the premise, the data is anything, we deal with it in day-to-day life. How big data plays an important role? Something that's challenging for us. When we were the kids, how we were taught to count? We used to count from fingers. We closed fingers to counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we want to say 6. We again stretch the finger. We open our fingers. Can we count a big number, say that 745 with fingers? Okay, thing is this, 745, if you want to count with fingers, we can count it. But it's going to take long time, so we need to find out different ways of counting. Agreed? So let's understand now how we're going to come up different ways of counting. How did you used to count? Do you remember? Used something tail sticks, right? This is how we started to count in sets of 5. So thereby we started counting 10 and more than 10. Again we started putting it. But let's say we need to compute 745. Think how much of tail stick we need to have put this number. Do you think it will be more? Do you think it's gonna be too much? It's going to be too much. Alright? I mean number 149 to be required to do this. We're going to need too much of tail sticks. So we came up something better ways to do this. What is better ways to do this now? We need to count a bigger number. Can you come up with better way? I don't want tail sticks. No tail sticks anymore. I want a bigger way. What are the next ways we found it? Historically, have you heard something about the abacus? Abacus is a kind of machine, I can say, or equipment which had some sort of wires in frame and weights in wire. These weights. Now the upper portion counts ones and the lower portion counts tens. Now let's say 745 we want to count. We ensure we know the 7th bit is mod here to signify 700 position. And then so everything has a position. This is first position, 10th position and 100th position. Here we move the bits and here we move the bit accordingly. We get the number. So this is how abacus used to work. Then we moved into evolution of storing data. As data grows enormously larger and larger and larger, you know floppy disk? Everybody should know floppy disk, right? So as data grows larger and larger and larger, we came up with different ways of storing it. That's how we found a numeral system. This is called a numeral system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and similarly. So we found a numeral system to represent the number, to represent the data. Okay? Now as data grows huge in size, let's say you want to store a data that is 735267889, something like that. Obviously you can't put it in abacus. You need to have a numeral system to start writing. As data grows in size, then we came up with different mechanisms to store the data. The first format of store came from the magnetic disk. Okay? When the computers started, data goes stored from something called floppy disk, right? You must be know floppy disk. What size of floppy disk? Memory size that you can hold. The very first floppy disk, when it came up, it was 1.2 MB. And then the bigger one came 1.4 MB. Years ago, when I was studying, when I was in my standard 10, when I was doing my computer, I carried a floppy disk. Which was carrying 1.2 MB. Today, if you carry or I carry floppy disk of 1.4 MB or 1.2 MB, what will be the reaction? Will you be funny? So thing is this, right? As data grow and grow, we try to have many different machines that can store more amount of memory. So we grew from floppy disk to compact disk. Now we move to DVDs. And now we have USBs or pen drives, which can store 2 GB or even 16 GB or 64 GB of data. But then we moved one way ahead to have hard disk, which can store TBs of data. Now as we see, the idea bringing the question is, as data grows and grows and grows, the requirement for memory is stored. I'm asking a question, as data grows, the storage, did it increase or not? We have seen very eventually as data grows, there is a requirement to grow storage of data. Question 2. At the start of this class, I called Mr. John. John was a name of a person used to identify a person, right? Now what happens in class? I have 3 Johns. When I call John, what happens? We call John, all the 3 respond. If I call John, it becomes ambiguous. It becomes confusing and creates lots of confusion that who is right John, who should stand up or raise hand, because everybody is called John. So in that case, how do I pinpoint the right person? What do I look for? You can call by first name and last name. Let's say John Williams. So obviously now the person whose name is John Williams is going to stand up. Let's say all the 3 are John Williams. We're gonna deal with millions of records, billions of records. All the 3 are John Williams. Now what we do? Any other ways to find right person we want. Okay? Assigning some ID, address by age, location, something like that. Now we are trying to find out different ways of identifying a person. Let's say John Williams is 23, please stand up. So he stands up. Or John Williams from Miami, please stand up. So what we do here is, as data increases more and more and more, in order to fetch one single record, did we not supply more information to it? Such as ID, age, location, right? So that 2 things in the question here is, as data increases, visa storage needs to increase and processing needs to have more information. Are you clear? Now we started with data to pinpoint these 2 points. Process such huge amount by giving the right information and by getting the right information. Right? This is all about the data.